Hey there, Geminis. We're going to talk about the upcoming eclipse September 18th, happening in Pisces and also a little bit in Aries, technically. Um, so you're kind of going through this transformation. You have been for a while. And I think right now, one of the ways that this transformation is showing itself is that as you continue to kind of change internally, you're starting to find that maybe you are reassessing what you like to do for fun and just for enjoyment. And this could be causing some things to come to light when it comes to like your friend groups and your social circles that's causing you to want to redraw certain boundaries and reassess who you want to spend time with and what kind of people you want to be friends with, because you may be finding that you're starting to get interested in things or just feel a general inclination towards wanting to do certain things that maybe your social circles and your friend groups aren't really into. And there might even be people who get kind of uncomfortable about that when you start to kind of change your interests, because maybe those certain friends, you're the only reason you spend time, the only reason you're friends with certain people perhaps is because you both share certain things that you do. And as you start to want to do other things, you start to find that you drift apart, and that the friendship was really just based on the activity that you shared and had nothing really to do with the actual connection between people. And that can be kind of like, it can just feel like, well, what are we really doing here if we're not actually friends? And you may find that certain people start to kind of act weird. You start to realize things about certain people. They start to become clear. With Neptune in retrograde, Neptune being all about imagination, dreams, magic, fantasy, sort of, it can be very foggy, kind of watery sort of energy. And when it goes into retrograde, that sort of fog starts to clear. And even though you might not feel as imaginative, your dreams might not be as vivid, it can kind of make things become a little demystified at the same time. So you can see things a little more clearly. So there may be a fog, that starts to clear, and you start to see things about certain friends and certain people in your social group. This could be to have to do with like business connections too for some people, but I think mainly it's like a social thing, like friend groups, friend circles. Geminis tend to be pretty good at making friends very, very easily. You tend to be good conversationalists and tend to have usually a pretty good sense of humor, and people kind of usually may gravitate towards you because of that. And it could be that at some point because of that trait, you may have let like a lot of people into your social group without really vetting a lot of them, so that there may be people who slipped in where you didn't there wasn't a lot of clarity as to the real definition, the boundaries between you and this person, like the real definitions of those relationships. And so certain people in your social circle may start to sort of drop off. You may sort of decide you don't want to spend time with other people, may decide that there are certain people that maybe you haven't spent a lot of time with that you would rather spend more time with. But I really feel like this eclipse is focusing mostly around your what you want to do for fun and what you enjoy doing with your time, and your social interactions, your social groups, your friend circles. So with the moon kind of being conjunct the north node here in your 11th house, you may just feel like the urge to be a little more independent and just maybe not necessarily spending time alone, but like not really just going with the crowd as much. Maybe in the past with Lilith in the fifth house in Libra, maybe you've kind of, maybe if you are spending time with people, like I'm imagining like a group of friends hanging out together, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And some of them want to go do this thing, and you're like, I don't really care about that. I kind of rather would go do this thing. That sounds more fun to me. But you end up going along with them to kind of please everyone else, and then you kind of miss out on the thing that you want to do. And maybe you've done this over and over again in the past. Maybe this is like a long-standing pattern. This is something that's continuously happened throughout your life, and you're kind of tired of it. Maybe you're just really starting to feel like, I would like to kind of be the one to either do things on my own that I like, or maybe be the one to kind of steer the group a little bit more when it comes to social situations. So really just speaking up about that is really all that's required here with Mercury here, also in Virgo in your fifth house. But for some reason, I do feel like there's a bit of a reluctance to speak up about these things. Maybe, it's like you really value some of these relationships and connections. You don't want to upset anybody, and you're afraid that if you start wanting to go in a different direction or express that, then, like I said before, certain people, might start to drop off or spend less time with you. But if you come to discover that the only reason you were spending time with certain people was because of this one shared activity that you never really cared about as much as they did in the first place, then what are you're not really losing a whole lot by not spending time with that person anymore, by losing that friendship. You're not actually losing a friendship, because if it's only based on the activity and it has nothing to do with like a personal connection between you, can you really call those friends? It's more of an acquaintance, so a person who shares interests. But that doesn't necessarily, I don't know if I call that a friend. It might seem like a friend at first, but um, and really what's happening is you're kind of going through this like spiritual transformation. Your internal world is shifting and changing. And as that happens, your interests are going to change and your circumstances are going to change as well. Slowly, most likely, but change nonetheless. And there is a grand trine happening here between the Sun, Uranus in retrograde, and or Pluto in retrograde, and in opposition to Neptune in retrograde. So all these outer planets are in retrograde and also aspecting the sun at this time of this eclipse. And basically, when you combine all these things together, it's like there is this energy that is causing a transformation that is kind of surprising, that will be surprising over time in ways. Although with Mercury, I can't say the right words right now. With Uranus in retrograde, things tend to be a little bit less crazy and chaotic, because that's kind of the nature of Neptune. Uranus, if I could say the right planets, geez, that is kind of the nature of Uranus, is to be kind of wild and unpredictable and bring these like crazy upheavals. But when it's in retrograde, that kind of tends to calm down a little bit. So this could be, the transformation that's happening now is slow and subtle, but also all encompassing. It's like you're really kind of turning into a new person, but it's going to take a long time before this full transformation is complete. And things will change as that continues to happen. And don't be afraid to let go of certain people if you just wanting to do what you want to do and not always just kind of acquiescing and doing what everybody else wants to do is going to make them upset. Then let them be upset so you can go do what you want to do. Anyways, I think I'm going to just leave it at that. These videos are all, if you watch your sun, moon, and rising videos, you'll probably find that pretty much the same theme is showing up, just in slightly different ways for all the different signs. So I don't want to repeat myself too much here, so I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, subscribe, comment, send me a message if you want to get into a private reading, and I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.